Hey guys, so today we have Kheeran Naiju. He does computer science. He's a fourth year master's student who's going to stay in academia to complete, maybe, hopefully, a PhD. He's an international student from Malaysia. Also, I would like to add, he's a connoisseur of all things whiskey and is extremely witty, which is surprising considering the degree that he does.
Can't say much better for aerospace.
To be fair, that is true. That is true. So, actually, let's bring it back to as a child. Did you know that you wanted to do computer science? Like, what were your interests, and what was your childhood like?
So, my closest thing I ever did related to computer science would have been computers. Like, I wouldn't say naturally, but I always loved computers. So stuff like ICT, stuff like IT, which everyone at our age was pretty much knew how computers work, right? We grew up with it. It came naturally, to the point where I was very interested in the new technologies that came out. I would go online and watch YouTube videos about people using iPhones and the new Androids, because I always wanted one, didn't have one, and did all my research that I could to find out how they worked, and just basically... Actually, the closest thing I did to CS was jailbreak my iPod Touch. And I really wanted to get the most I could out of the apps. I needed to learn a little bit of how the iPod worked in order to jailbreak it.
Actually, that's funny you mentioned that. I actually planned to do the same thing as well, but I was kind of scared.
What's that?
In the end, like I asked my mom, can I jailbreak my iPod? But in the end, I didn't do it. I was too scared that I was going to break it, and it was like my first piece of like proper, like, electronic item that I invested a lot of my own money in. Mm-hmm. So I just played it safe,
Yeah, no, that's fair.
But you didn't.
That's fair. No, the worst thing you can do to it is to brick it.
Okay.
And so it just two things: either you brick it and it can never turn back on, or it goes into an infinite restart loop.
Oh, okay.
And once it's in there, you can't do anything about it.
Damn.
Well, so to speak, depending on how you bricked it. I bricked mine once, but managed to kind of get it out of it. There's risk. There's a lot of risks involved with it.
To the people that are listening.
Apple siphons a lot of money out of the country to avoid taxes, so be my guest and steal applications from them for free.
A little plug. Okay, that's really interesting. I'd say like for me as well, like I was really also interested in like how things worked, and I would research some of the things about, I would research in the online. I think the specific website is like how stuff worked, just really figure out how things work, and I would read like encyclopedias as well. So there's like similarities there. Yeah. Yeah. But like, what made you pick computer science as opposed to something like engineering or some of the other subjects?
So this was like my first kind of entry point into computer science, and then after a while I started working more on. My brother loved hardware of computers, and he loved building computers, so I kind of knew a little bit about that. But when it came to picking my subject, what I really enjoyed in school was mathematics. And it was something that came easy to me, came naturally to me. And when I went to do my A-levels, I did maths and 3 sciences. My thought process for that was not picking anything that I wanted to do that I really liked, more of keeping my options as open as possible. And so if I wanted to do anything social sciences, I didn't really need to have done history in A-levels or geography in A-levels or economics in A-levels in order to do those subjects in university. So I didn't see a point in actually doing them in A-levels. Whereas I never wanted to do this, but if I ever changed my mind and wanted to do medicine or go into biology or go into chemistry or go into physiotherapy, for example, having a knowledge of biology, chemistry, physics would have been very important and necessity for most of these subjects.
So you did, even though you're from Malaysia, you did A-levels and AS levels, yeah?
Yeah.
And you did 4 subjects for your A-levels, which was 3 sciences and maths.
And maths, yeah.
Bloody hell. You're a smart man.
Regrettably, I should have taken out probably biology and done further math. That would have kept my options much options more open.
Yeah.
In hindsight, because nobody really, even if you want to do biology, you don't really necessarily need biology. But
Yeah.
sorry. Yeah. So, but yeah, to answer your question, what really sold when I came to university was I wanted to do mathematics, and I was trying to find. I wasn't going to go purely into theoretical mathematics because I wanted to be able to work in the world that we live in, to apply it, right? To do something with
I
it,
see.
not just be purely theoretical. Have a job, make money, basically. More practical. And so I looked at the options, and my options, which I came up with, were either doing mathematics with economics, because you understand how the economy of the world works. You can trade, you can make money, you can actually figure out, get a better understanding of the world. And it's something that's super important to actually live and make money, basically. So I applied for mathematics with economics and mathematics and economics in different universities. But I also looked at computer science because our world is developing to a place where computer science is super important. Everything runs on computers, the internet. Technology is prominent everywhere. We wake up in the morning, the first thing we look at is our phones. You have advertisements coming to us, and I wanted more. And you have to, in order to understand why we see particular adverts, you need a bit of understanding of computer science. And our world is based so much around it. So I applied for maths with computer science as well, maths and computer science in different universities, because it's more practical. And I didn't really have that much of a inspiration or that much of a motivation to do computer science. It wasn't like, this is something I really want to do from a very young age, right?
I see.
It wasn't it wasn't my lifelong dream to be a computer scientist.
Yeah, okay. So you said you applied to maths and computer science, as in like a joint kind of...
A joint honours, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So right now I'm currently doing a joint honours in mathematics and computer science.
Oh, I see. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
My bad. That's interesting. Yeah. So why Bristol then? Why did you choose to travel halfway across the world and study in Bristol?
So UK for starters. I did A-levels, meaning the options. Okay, for starters, Malaysia's university, they have good universities, but and in the top 500 in the world, but it's very limited. We have a few, not very widespread. So doing something specialized, you tend to not have that many. The education for more specialized subjects. Computer science now is coming up, but back then, and even now to a certain extent, it's not that great. Whereas in the UK, US, Australia, things are a lot better. Europe especially, actually. Education's a lot better. And so my instinct to leave Malaysia was to either come to UK or go to Germany or go to France. UK because I did A-levels and it was accepted. My mom is British, so I do have a bit of support here as well. Okay. And then Germany and France was because the education for university level is a lot cheaper. So I'm currently here on a scholarship. So if I were to not have a scholarship, I would have looked at France and Germany because its education is way cheaper.
Are you here on a scholarship because of what kind of scholarship is it?
What do you mean? Sorry?
In terms of is it because you're so you got the grades?
It's a merit-based merit-based scholarship.
Okay.
There are a few private companies in Malaysia that do merit-based scholarships, and it's not it's less feasible for a Malaysian student to come to UK and study. US even more so because fees are just extremely expensive, living expenses. It all adds up, right?
Yeah.
Doing 4 years degree, if you're doing a master's, an integrated master's, doing a 4-year degree, plus, and then if you want to do further studies, even that just adds up, right? And if you don't have funding for any of them, who's going to pay for it, right?
How did you find out about this scholarship?
So, fortunately, my brother, when he was applying for university, he also did research into it. My dad also knows. Well, he's always, you know how Asian parents are trying to find the cheapest way possible.
Yeah.
Save the most money. But I mean, it's good, right?
It's a very valid method.
Yeah. So I had my dad helping me, giving me these, showing me what to do, basically, and then I searched myself and applied myself.
Yeah, I imagine it must have been very competitive. This makes sense now that you did 3 sciences and the maths.
It's actually quite standard to do 4 A-levels
in Malaysia.
In Malaysia.
Oh, okay.
You can get by most universities. All universities in the UK require 3.
Yeah.
But most of the A-level schemes have programs where it's just 4 subjects basically. That's just standard.
Okay.
You'd apply for 4 subjects.
So let's take a turn here and then go and let's talk more about your degree itself. What was your expectations when before first year, in the summer going into the degree, and what was the reality of it, and what did the expectation meet the reality, or just let's talk about that more.
So before starting mathematics and computer science, the mathematics side was okay for me because I always enjoyed it, and I was always I always felt confident with it. But the computer science side was actually what gave me a lot of stress, because I'd never done proper computer science beforehand. Didn't do it in A-levels or didn't do it
when you say coding and things like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, coding.
Okay, so you've never done coding
Never
before.
done coding
okay, that's
before.
really important for the audience to know.
Yeah.
Okay.
So never done coding before, and before coming I felt as though I'd be behind everybody else, so I wouldn't have that that necessary prerequisites that you'd need to do a degree in computer science. So that was that added quite a bit of pressure to the degree. But fortunately, when I came in, obviously in the first year, in the first term especially, you see the stark differences between the level of the programming skills between the different students, because some people have been programming since they were 12, 15, and they know all of these different languages from Python to C to they know how to build a website, and they have good background in it. But in the first term, everybody's on a different page, but by the end of the first term, you all tend to be moving towards a similar direction, because what you learn is very good to have previous practice in programming languages, because you understand how to do certain things, but you don't understand why to do certain things, which is what you develop, especially in Bristol. They are more theoretical based, is what you develop in Bristol, understanding the fundamentals of the programming language and why certain things work and how they work and what happens underlying in the computer, like writing an if statement or writing a simple line of code, what that actually does on the fundamental level of the computer, rather than just executing some function that you asked it to do, which was what they taught. And funnily enough, to this day, I've probably programmed way less than that first year student who's been programming since they were 15.
Oh, okay.
But because there's more theoretical aspects to it, and you can tailor your degree based on what you prefer, from more theoretical to more hardware to more, if you want to go more applied, you can go.
So you can tailor your specific degree to what even in first year or second year?
No, not necessarily in first year. First year they teach you fundamentals, and one thing about Bristol is they teach more theoretical fundamentals. So they'll teach you, there's a unit called Theory of Computation, which is basically just how a computer works at the fundamental level, whether it's a super fast computer like a Mac or a Lenovo or a HP, or a supercomputer in Google, to basically just a computer that has 3 operations, which is a very simple basic, we call it a Turing machine, which can either read memory, move up and down a particular memory tape, if you were to look at it, and they can read and write memory. All of them fundamentally can perform the exact same computation. It's just the speed at which they do it varies from something that was built in the 1940s, I think, Alan Turing during World War II, to supercomputers that are made today. It's all fundamentally the same thing. Mm-hmm. And that was the kind of stuff which you don't learn. You don't learn just by going online, right? You don't learn by just practicing coding, which I think everybody gained from, no matter what level of programming language you had, programming knowledge you had. Sorry.
So that's good to any of the students listening. And if you're looking to do computer science, it would be beneficial to know some coding,
100%.
But it's not essential. Funnily enough, I think I experienced something similar in terms of a lot of students. They did further maths back in school. So for one of my modules, I found it really difficult in first and second year. because they knew further maths, they could pick whatever, they could pick up different things much more easily than me. But you know, it is what it is.
Yeah, I agree. Actually, more on the maths side of things. I did not do further maths, so first year doing mathematics was extremely tough for me.
Yeah.
Whereas other people who'd done further maths were just like, yeah, this is
coasting it.
Yeah, exactly. And like they say, right, if you've done further maths, that's basically the first year of engineering, mathematics done.
Literally, I would sit down in the lectures because I didn't do further maths, and like I wouldn't have a clue what's going on. They would just like, and sometimes like the lecturers would take breaks. And it's like, okay, so do this question in the 5-minute break, and then people would be like scribbling things down, and I'm like, what do we do? I don't understand the symbols on the PowerPoint. What on earth is it?
No, I know exactly how you feel.
Especially because it's like lecturers, like they like to like go to the theoretical basis of it and like the actual derivations of these equations. Whereas like if you did further maths in school, you at least know how to like solve the question. Like step A, B, and C kind of thing. And that module was pretty tough. But I got a grasp of it, and it's only one module, so it's not too bad.
Yeah. First year is probably that biggest. Like depending on where you start at, the learning curve may be a bit steeper, but by the end of it, you all reach the same place.
Yeah. This is what I people have different opinions, but for me, I found first year quite difficult. In terms of just like trying to catch up with everyone. I thought everyone else was like so much more smarter than me, because you're the big fish in a small pond, and now you're in the ocean, and you're not as big as you thought you were.
Yep. That hits hard.
yeah. But everyone finds their own niche, and you get used to it, and yeah, it's like first year is like everyone's at the same level basically at the end of first year.
I think. Once that's the thing, right? Once you push through first year, your motivation comes from your niche at the end of it, exactly. And then you prosper in that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's very true.
So let's talk about your business, your side hustle, basically, which is I think the company. This is a startup called The Pangean.
The Pangean. Yeah.
Tell us more about it.
So The Pangean is it's an online magazine which is seeking to herald a revolution in media, trying to change the way that we think about, trying to change the way that we think about the world and the way we consume information. Rather than being told how to think, rather than being told how to think by a lot of these big media companies out there, we're trying to push for getting our readers to think about a particular argument. Because if you see in today's articles, if you were to read something from The Economist or The New York Times, they have their biases associated with their articles, and they have their nuances that they're trying to put forth to you, and saying that this is the right and only way that you can think about this particular argument, and it's very well structured. These people are super smart, and they structure their arguments really well. But if you were to go deeper into analysis of their articles, you find that, these are actually assumptions and inherent biases that they're making, and they're trying to push it on you, trying to make you believe that this is the only way to think. And we're trying to go for more of the approach of, this is our argument, this is our structure, this is another way of thinking about something. What do you think? To try and start a discussion, basically.
This is interesting because it's kind of. So how would you say, or would you at all say that? How would you say computer science is related to your business endeavor, or yeah?
So this idea, 100%, is not mine. I'm mathematics and computer science. I have very little literary background. But this idea came from one of the founding partners, and so there are three of us founding partners, and two of them, Harsh and Yuan, my really good friends, my best friends. They basically used to work for a magazine, another online magazine called the Millennial Review, and they enjoyed the different perspective that they took, but there was a fundamental organizational flaw with what they did. And after about a few months of them working there, and they managed to get to senior positions, organization just fell through and they went quiet. So everybody who was under them, and even people not necessarily under them but working for them, they know review, just had no communication with the organization. And so they're all in this space of, what are we going to do, right? And so that's when Harsh came up with the idea, like, we can start our own magazine, he said to Yuan. And then they started thinking about it, and then they actually started communicating with the people they used to have, the people so they became editors in their respective fields, policy and sports. And so they took their editors, basically. They were editors, so they took their writers and they started communicating with the ones that they were really close to, and they started to develop this whole new kind of foundation for the Pangean.
And where did you come into it?
And so they came to me and they started, they're my best friends, so we started talking about it, and they started getting my insight because I do computer science, and they wanted to know what kind of, what they're looking at in terms of how to build a website. And so I gave them some advice, and I was telling them, this is what you'll need, you'll probably have to do this, and this is how much it costs. So on a monthly basis, you'd have to pay for a subscription. If you had no CS knowledge whatsoever, you would need
CS is computer science?
Computer science, yeah. If you had no knowledge on computer science, you'd have to use something like Squarespace or Wix to develop your website, and that incurs monthly costs. It's very, very useful to use, but you have that monthly payment, right? And a startup can't afford that monthly payment, especially with no funding. And I broke it down for them, and they're like, oh shit. And I told them, however, if you have a little bit of knowledge in computer science, and this is stuff that, if you know the foundations, the fundamentals, the theory of computer science, it's very easy to pick up. I personally never learned they don't teach you how to code a website in your first, second, or third year. It's not fundamental to computer science. But we had learned the fundamental theory to understand how to do it. So it was very easy to pick up. And I told them, I knew the theory behind it. Like, if you have a static website, you can build your own servers. It costs really cheap to do it on. If you were to get some server time on server space on Amazon, which we don't do because we have a static website and we actually use free alternatives that you need little hosting. I told them, if you had a little bit of knowledge of this, which I do, it can be free instead of this monthly payment. And they initially got me on to, as like a temporary basis, more of a, fine, we'll see what you can do, like see how you can do it, right? But because of my CS knowledge, I managed to completely develop the foundations of the website and take their idea that they had, right? They had the resources, the people to make it happen, but they didn't actually have the platform for it to make it. And then I came in and I developed that platform with my CS knowledge. And now, a year later, well, actually, a month after I started doing it, they started chatting and they're like, we were in a meeting. It was funny. We were in a meeting and they were chatting, and I was just like, so I don't want to be paid for it because you guys are a startup. I don't want to just get money one-off and then not have any sort of motivation to do anything else after. So I asked for equity. I wanted to be, shareholder, right? I wanted to have a stake in the company so that I care about its future, so that I also invest in it. And then it was funny because in the conversation they both had there was an impasse. They were just like, one of them was like, oh, shall we do this? They're chatting. I could tell they were chatting on their partners group, right? They're chatting on their group together, and I was just standing there. They're like, and they're typing, oh, shall we make him a partner? Shall we do this? And they're having a discussion. I was just like, guys, just take your time, go talk about it, come back to me. And then within a few seconds, they're just like, you know what, no, we're 100% certain we want to make you a partner. And so I joined in on their business. And now
so was this a verbal agreement?
Yeah, 100% verbal. Everything was verbal. Everything was verbal at that point.
Okay. But do you have it in contract now?
We're actually working towards incorporating our business now. But it's people I can trust.
Yeah.
So these are my friends, right? I can trust these people.
Yeah.
But the point being, without that CS knowledge, I wouldn't have been part of this business.
I see.
And it's a year later now, and we're doing so many things to improve me personally, to improve the tech side using the knowledge I have.
Improving the what? Sorry?
Improving the tech side, technology side.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So stuff like automation of our processes to, that's the main thing we're working on now. Automation of processes, of analytics, because I'm a lazy guy fundamentally, and I don't want to every single quarter or every single week or every single month do the same repetitive task over and over again.
Okay.
So what I do is I use whatever CS knowledge I have to try and automate those processes.
Okay.
So that I.
This is really interesting in terms of. We had Patrick on here at one point.
Who, sorry?
Patrick is one of my friends.
Okay.
So he had a really like a big interest in English, and you heard about how he developed that in the university. This is another example where you have other interests. There's other opportunities that came up, and then you use your degree basically to allow you to basically give value. So I guess my point is, no matter what degree you're doing, there are opportunities that come up that you can use skills that you've obtained in your degree, and
like just following up from that, you don't have to be passionate about your degree in order to apply it to something that you're passionate about.
That's an interesting point.
So like I find a lot of people lack motivation in university because, this is not the degree that I really want to do. I've done this because some people are forced to by their parents, some people couldn't make a decision and decided on something they don't really like. But doesn't limit your options. If later on, a year down the line, 2 years down the line, you figure out, my passion is this. There are a lot of ways to integrate what you do in your university life, whether it's the theoretical skills that you develop, or the interpersonal skills, or the other sorts of skills that you develop. There are ways to use those skills to actually seek out what your passion is. It's not a waste.
Yeah, because it's very difficult to know what your passion is at 18, right? At 16, 17, 18, or what you want to do for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
So, like, I guess, like, with a lot of these STEM degrees, you're not bolted down to one path. There are different things you can do. That doesn't mean that you don't, like, you still have to, like, go and actively seek out different things and actually, like, see when opportunity comes. And you have your eyes open. But other opportunities are available. So which is a really great thing about your degree.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So, is there anything else that you want to add, or?
Would just on that, in terms of self-development, I would say if you were to look back to me, the person I was before university, and compared to the person I am now, completely different. I never would have guessed. 4 years ago, I never would have told you, this is where I'm going to be. I'm going to be potentially going into academia as a long-term career and having this side hustle. I never would have guessed that. I would have just thought, I'll be finishing. Actually, funnily enough, I was on a three-year course when I first entered, and I extended it to the 4-year integrated masters halfway through because I thought there was a lot more to learn, and I wasn't satisfied. And I also enjoyed the university experience. Even just coming to university, the people that you meet. I never met the kind of people in university back home. Like, it's like you said, big fish, small pond. Now you're in the vast ocean. There's a lot of different people out there, a lot of things you can learn from everybody, and you yourself will change. I don't even recognize myself from 2 years ago even.
Yeah, man. Yeah, same. Yeah, I was a very different guy.
Yeah. I've seen pictures.
So I guess I hope the audience, you guys have actually got a lot of value from having Kheeran here today. I think the main really point is that doing computer science or doing any of these STEM degrees, which is really the beauty of STEM degrees, is you're not limited, right? There's actually opens up more doors than it closes up, So yeah, thank you, Kheeran.
Hey, thanks, Derek.